My name's Roger Vukobratovich. I'm with Monster. I'm on our staffing team here. And with me, I have Roxanne Kos from Vaco.
Hi, I'm a senior applications director at Vaco. Basically, all applications roll up under my team and all data strategy and reporting.
Great. So we're going to talk to you about data a little bit today. Just as the title of this discussion may allude, the act of having clean data is similar to the act of making friends. Carnegie told us that we need to first understand people before we can appeal to them. And this certainly holds true for data. So data gives us the power to understand and take action. The impact of clean data is twofold. It gives us a clear picture of the strengths and weaknesses of our candidate pool and allows our systems, both manual and automated, to run more efficiently and at a higher level. So, Roxanne, question to you. That all sounds great, right? Data is cool, it's really important, allows us to do all kind of great stuff. But why is it important to Vaco?
Well, I think about Vaco and data and realize, one thing we all know is that recruiters really cling to data, which is an interesting thing because when I do data migrations, they want resumes from 7 years ago. We cannot leave these resumes behind because we might need them someday. And when I think about clean data and that strategy, would you personally want somebody searching for you on your resume from 7 years ago? Probably not. And so there's this mentality that we need to keep all data because it's so important. But really, when you think about today's world, that's why our recruiters go out to Monster and job boards because they want the most recent data that's clean. So data is very important. It really, I think that the buzzword is data-driven decisions, data-driven decision-making, data-driven strategy. But at the end of the day, when you think about relationships and job hunting, we have so many candidates in the database, you have to narrow it down somehow. And you don't want to be narrowing that data down based on a resume from 7 years ago.
Yeah, that's a really good point, right? So you talked about different data sets, different data types. And we've essentially found that there's two types of data sets. Now, these can be, and this is from our meeting this morning, Roxanne pointed out, these can be office to office. These can be company to company, but there's usually essentially two different types. The first one is a data set where there's an abundant amount of data. So tons of data, right? It might not be accurate, it might not be complete, but there's a lot of it. You could think high volume staffing here, right? A lot of temp jobs, things like that. There's also data sets that are extremely accurate, right? And this might be an office who has just really dedicated themselves to data hygiene, making sure they're inputting the right things about their customers or their candidates. This also, not to stereotype here, but this might be like an executive search firm, right? They might know the spouse's birthday and the person's shoe size and what their favorite flowers are, what their favorite chocolate are. So we've found that what we need to do is essentially get these two types of data sets to overlap. And the way we do that is by updating through Monster data to a place that we like to call data nirvana, right? So if we can make these two circles one, which probably will never happen, right? At that point, we'll know we'll have a truly clean data set. So I guess, we're talking about this, potentially doing this with your data set, Roxanne, yeah. Right? Why? I know you said why data is important, but at what point will you say we definitely need to change this because X or something along those lines, right? Is there a tipping point?
I think there's definitely a tipping point. I think right now it's very evident in a candidate type market. You rely on this data so much more heavily than if it's, there's a surplus of candidates. So right now, and we all know speed to respond is key. If you're not able to get that candidate in front of the hiring manager faster than everyone else, or even call that candidate first, it's such a competitive market. So, right now is the time when that data is more critical than ever. I think we all learned from COVID that things that never mattered before and the whole strategy of data. I actually have to say that my systems are cleaner than they have ever been because all of a sudden people depended on the data in the system. They couldn't be like, hey, Roger, what do you think about this guy right here? They have to actually search and look for them. So, I think that it's kind of started a little bit of momentum that there is the ability, there is critical data in the system and we should start there first. So cleanup is just inevitable at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah. So on that note, as far as like how this process worked, did just want to touch on it briefly. So essentially, what we're potentially entering into with Vaco in the near future, hopefully to expand our relationship, and then with others that we're currently ongoing now, is that our customers are sending us their data and saying, hey, this is the data that we know to be old, or these are the areas that we need to be filling in or appending in our candidate pool. From there, we're matching that data and we're delivering back a more fresh or current record. That could be things as simple as an address. It could be things as complex as work history. So a great example of this, I think we touched on it again this morning. We had a customer who were going through a similar type of engagement like this. And we said, Mr. Customer, can you look up your resume right now in your ATS and tell us what it says? Now, mind you, this person is a high level, delivery manager overseeing technology. He looked up his resume from his current employer in his ATS, and it said he was a forklift driver, right? Now, we know that he has much more value than a forklift driver, but they were never able to leverage that. Oddly enough, he happens to work for them, so it's kind of not fair. But I guess the point I'm trying to get to is that there are a lot of things that can be gained from clean data, whether it's just the ability to contact someone or to actually know more about them, to make some type of action or take some type of action that will lead to a hire or a placement. So I know you guys are using a ton of different tools, and we don't want to hear the Vaco secret sauce. Definitely not what we're trying to divulge here. But how specifically, or as specifically as you would like, will clean data help you with the use of automation? We know that it's going to make the recruiter's life easier, right? But when it comes to automation, I feel like that's where we're putting the cart before the horse, and we're not having updated data before we implement types of automation. So can you share at all how clean data can feed further in automation?
Absolutely. I mean, I think right now our producers and recruiters have a lack of confidence in the data that we already have because they've been burned by it. And it's interesting because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy in that we want clean data, but nobody wants to update the data, but yet then we're upset when the data doesn't work for us. So just getting that foundation to be able to start fresh and have that. And then I think we need to look at all the possibilities of the data that we have. We have lots of tools. I'm sure all of you out here have purchased all of these tools for automation because there's a lot of bells and whistles. It sounds really great. And then you go to implement them and you realize that, well, some of this data is not right. I don't really want to text, Mr. CEO about his forklift experience. That probably is not going to go very far with him.
Yeah.
And we are a business of relationships, but at the same time, like an average recruiter, there's only so many people that you can maintain those active relationships with. So you have to depend on that data. And honestly, like these candidates, most of the candidates in your database, they are probably hiring managers now too. If your data is outdated, it's twofold. It's not just people that you can pull away and recruit. These are people that you can actively start doing business with.
Absolutely. So a funny stat I heard not that long ago, I think low-wage workers, so light industrial type employees, on average, change their phone number between 8 and 12, or every 8 to 12 months. So imagine that. Imagine how many resumes you've required later than 12 months ago, or I should say earlier than 12 months ago, that are in your system today that more than likely have a new phone number, right? Just quick raise of hands if anyone's actually listening to me on this. Has anyone, another one, has anyone ever had a recruiter come up to them and say, this data, or maybe indirectly say, the data in our system is out of date? Has anyone ever heard that? I mean, I would be hard pressed to say that you haven't, right? So this is how we're solving for this. Whether it's for Vaco or another organization, our goal is to find the most up-to-date data that we can and deliver it back to the customer so you guys can take action, right? The idea of this, sharing or being a play on words of one of the best-selling business books of all time, I think is really true, because the central idea of that book is we first need to change before we can get someone else to change. We need to understand so that we can understand others, right? And I think that's really a great analogy for how data is actually put together. We need to change our data set so we can communicate to them effectively.
I would
Your
agree.
take on that?
No, I completely agree. I mean, the approach to data is so critical, and we need to actually get recruiters to buy in. I mean, part of the challenge I think that, personally I've seen in my career is that we don't show the value of the data. So we know recruiters are like closest to the money. I think I've heard that a million times in my career, like it's closest to the money. I care about this person right now. Can they help me fill the job right now? And then I move on. Shiny object. What's next? And that they don't really recognize the value in that data and how it can grow with them. So, Roger's candidate that he just got for his position may not fit his job, but how many other jobs in your organization could they be qualified for? But Roger's just moving along and ripping through these resumes saying, I just want to get closest to the money. So yeah, I think, showing that value add and also reporting on that data, like showing recruiters the value in, why would you ever enter something in a system if it's never utilized? It doesn't even make sense. None of us would do that. So you have to report on it. You have to show them the value to it and show them ways they can use that data long-term to nurture and grow candidates.
So on that note, and I think this is going to be probably our last question. So you've made a career in the staffing industry, right? You've probably forgot more than I'll ever know. Data quality, data hygiene is an endemic issue. Everyone struggles with it, whether they know it or not. Have you ever been, aside from Vaco, have you ever been part of an organization who has made a concerted effort to solve for that data hygiene problem? And if so, like, what were some of the things that made it more easy, because we all, or I should say less difficult, and then made it successful, right? Has this been something you've tackled in the past with another organization you could share on how that happened and how it worked out?
Definitely. I mean, I've done data refreshes before, and it's kind of like I think about it as cleaning my house. I can get like one room clean and everything else is messy, and like I can never get my whole house clean. So when you think about the data aspect, you can do that refresh, but if you don't continually move forward with it, you're going to have one room clean and the rest is going to be dirty. So I think doing the data refresh and then also continually nurturing that data, also automating it. If something has no activity and it's past a certain time frame, you have to consider, should we purge it? Should we archive it? Just get it out of there. You don't want to be calling resumes and having recruiters call people and their phone numbers changed 3 times. Also, I've incorporated it into an onboarding strategy before. What better way to break in a new recruiter than have them start calling people and updating data? It works out really well.
Awesome. Well, thank you for listening to us. I think I'm pretty sure that there are people on the other end of this, but this is definitely an experience. Thanks to Roxanne. Thanks to Vaco. Really, really appreciate all of you joining us, and stop by Monster Booth and we'll have a chat about data. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.